Hey guys, it's Tarkin coming at you with another game of Minecraft, but really it's just wheat. We're just gonna plant some wheat, you know the drill. Everything you see is wheat, or will be someday. I mean, not the trees and not the sky, and most of the water won't be wheat, but I mean overall it's all wheat here. Also, I have just a really tenuous grasp on when the stream actually started. I just hit the button and start talking. Probably not ideal. I'm sure it doesn't matter. You'll never guess what we're gonna do today. You may. You may indeed. Hey, Yellow Cheese Pizza Guy. Yes, indeed, it's wheat. Look, you can see it in the distance. You can see it right here. You know, from far away, it doesn't look like much. But I think it's pretty. And I know how excellent it is when you get moderately closer. That mountain is, like, kind of far away-ish. And yep, finally got to the end of my work week. Every week I think I'm not gonna make it, and every week I always do. But I'll be very pleased to sit at home and play video games even more hours of the day than I had been doing. That's really what it's all about after all. That and having ice cream for dinner. I'm an adult, I can do what I want. But I'm actually quite excited for the next couple days of gaming. Even more than normal, because Hades 2 is coming out on Thursday. And I'm going to play this game someone was recommending called Inscription tomorrow. But Hades 2, I'm confident that I'm going to have a great time. I'm not worried about, like, what if I don't like it or think it's good. I believe in it, you know, so... Very excited. I've already got plenty of all the supplies I'll need. You know, I've got my Mountain Dew. I've got you know, yogurt and granola. I've got frozen burritos unless they're chimichangas. They are different because it's a different word on the bag, and they're not allowed to do that if there's not a difference. But probably won't plant wheat, you know, tomorrow or the next day. I might, you know, but usually it's sort of like a more of a chill time whenever I don't have too long to play or I'm feeling sort of tired. It's a long day. I mean, they're all the same length of time. I mean, unless they aren't. In Minecraft, you know, you can just go to sleep and the day goes over. Wish it was that way. Be like, oh, there's a thunderstorm. I'll just lay down. You know, that's the problem, is the game creates unrealistic expectations. Also, for how easy it is to plant wheat, you know, like, a person would have quite a time doing this. It would take them longer. No, people have explained to me that you can, like, get a mod that gives you a machine, or of course just tell the computer to generate the wheat. But a typhoon coming soon, gonna directly to you? Oh no, that is very scary. By your sort of casual lead into it, it seems like you probably live in a place where it's not that uncommon, but, you know. stay safe. I know what it's like. You know, we don't have anything like that here where I live, but we do have tornadoes. And a lot of, many places on Earth don't have tornadoes at all, right? Which I don't even remember when I learned that. Whenever I was a kid, I thought they were everywhere. But, you know, like, even in my country, like, there's a lot of places that simply don't get tornadoes. Like, some places, like, really don't get thunderstorms either, which I don't know why I'm always so mind blown about how the world's a big place and it's all pretty different, but the floods won't affect you, but there's a blackout. Oh no. No fun. It's frightening how much of everything depends just on, you know, electricity. Not an original observation, but frightening all the same. Yeah, if there's like some bad storm here and the power goes out, I immediately make it about myself too. And I'm like, oh, how could my power at home be out on a day where I don't have to work? Why can't it be out, you know, whenever I'm there? How could this misfortune have befallen me? Well, the other month, a big tree limb did fall and, like, snap the electrical, like, the telephone pole that got the electricity to my house. So, I mean, I guess that one was all about me. You know, my neighbors didn't get inconvenienced. It was just us. Well, I'm sure you'll find a way to make it through without your normal electronic entertainment, but I sympathize. I don't want it to sound empty. I truly sympathize, because, like, whenever I don't have power, it's like I'm a ghost in my own house. Like, I can interact with everything, but not in a meaningful way. It's like my hand touches the light switch, but nothing occurs, you know? And it's so annoying, too, because I actually have a bunch of hobbies that don't involve electricity. Like, I read books. I really like to, including books I've read before. I have a bunch of stuff I can do, you know? It's not like all I do is sit around on my computer and play video games. That's just my favorite thing to do. So typhoons only common during that month. That is good. Yeah, it was storming here today, but just like your normal kinda lightning storm thing, which again, I guess isn't that normal in some places, which I feel like I only learned that, like, it's like one of my siblings lives like in a place that doesn't have thunderstorms, and it came up, and I was just like, but what do you mean? What do you mean it doesn't have, your sky doesn't have lightning? Got some games that don't need internet much download videos. Oh man, yeah. One of my favorite games to play is Total War Warhammer, which, you know, I've been streaming as of late, like in the last few months, but I've played for ages, you know. But, like, very often, you know how some games will be like, oh, you can't start it in an online mode until you've launched it in an offline, you know, rather, you can't play it offline until you authenticate it or whatever. But I have bought this first, second, and third game, and all of the DLCs, which is, like, a lot of them. They know who I am. I've played for, like, 1,500 hours across the series now. And every time I try to load it in offline, because, like, the internet's not working, it's like, we can't load it. You have to play... You have to load online one time first. And I'm like, this is nonsense. It makes me so mad. but I always have a couple games I can play. And like, I have like a Nintendo Switch console, but I always forget to keep it charged. I literally never play it. Only like if I'm like in a car going on a trip somewhere before I make myself go to sleep. Yeah, because I don't normally need to play offline, and it's not like my internet is reliable, but just like sometimes, you know, for whatever reason, if it doesn't work that day and you just want to play your single player game, I mean, it has online play, but why would it stop me from playing my single player thing, you know? These are all thoughts that I have had and words I've said out loud in my room, but without being on the internet, because that is the premise of the story. I almost didn't do this and just played my Total Warhammer campaign that I finished up. Because I was already playing it after I won, but I think I might do that later, but like not on stream. Just like keep on running around the world and getting in fights. So that I can find like one more good one if I play it for like 10 more hours. I can probably find like one more good fight. But it kind of feels weird the way that I basically always am streaming whatever I'm playing. Because, you know, while in life I've very often played games like with and around people, it's like there were always like times where I was just playing something, you know, without articulating thoughts, and now I just do it all the time. Even when I only plant wheat. But it's more fun to talk to yourself, and if you're doing it on the internet, it feels very normal. Not like the dog is gonna judge me. He's not gonna judge me, he doesn't care. He's laying around. Can't play Minecraft because the PC relies on the power. Yeah. Yes. That is a shame. I want to get like a generator, not just to play video games, but also to play video games. But they're expensive. And I don't like need one. It's just like, it would be cool. But I have to be careful about thinking too much about stuff that could be cool if it's expensive. But one thing I've always wanted, based on like, you know, silly little end of the world daydreams in media, is like a power source generator thing that's like tied to a bicycle, you know. Like, I love the idea of having a little TV that like powers a Super Nintendo, and you know, just like pedaling away on a bike so that I can like play Super Mario World or something at the end of the world. Like, that's a ridiculous daydream that I don't mind sharing with people. That's, you know, that's a thought I've had just so many more times than one time. Like, since I was a little kid, I've been having that thought. I'm like, man, it wouldn't be so bad living in a bunker if you just had a Super Nintendo and the ability to pedal a bike for power. And I stand by it. It would be a great way to use your energy. Hey, Luke. Gas generator? Yeah, probably. I mean, like, I'm also like quite interested in the idea of like a smaller solar generator just for how cool I think they are. But again, like, they're expensive. Or at least moderately expensive. And I don't actually need one. Exactly, Yellow Cheese Pizza Guy. Exactly. If you'll permit me to quote the Marcus Aurelius line that I love to do all the time, 1029, stop whatever you're doing for a second and ask yourself, am I afraid of death because I won't be able to do this anymore? And that is why I play so many video games. Mostly just against wind power. Ah, the Dutch, yes. I would love to have an old-timey windmill. I would love to make Don Quixote references. I would love to throw the grain against the stone while it creaked around. I think it would be very aesthetic if I was like some eccentric, mad, and also very rich person. So, if I was a rich person, that's one of the things I would have. People are like, I would get a yacht. I would be like, I would get a reasonably authentic wooden windmill. But yeah, I would like to have, just generator for, just in case stuff, like just in case my Switch isn't charged, or like when the telephone pole snapped a few months ago at my house, like we had to throw out all the stuff that was in the fridge or whatever, which wasn't, it's not that big a deal, but it would have been nice to say, okay, we'll just spend some fuel and be able to hold on to it or whatever, but yeah, Minecraft single player is, even if you had, like, normally a server where all your stuff was on, I think, if you just had to give me a game for a day and be like, alright, here's a game that exists, no matter what kind of mood I was in, I could probably find something to do in Minecraft that would be fine. Especially if I had the full soundtrack and I didn't have to find the places in-game to listen to it. But that's cheating. Yes, the famous problem. Slightly less famous is the number one cause of bird death in America, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the domesticated feline. But I am not suggesting we get rid of them. I would have two, if living conditions permitted, but I do not have any. Just one very lazy dog. Oh, he got up. Alright, he's not lazy anymore. He is now an accomplished gentleman who has decided to get up off of the floor. It's not really the floor, he's got like a cushion thing, a bed, if you will. But yeah, I'm not an engineer. I do know that for the purposes that, like, windmills were originally made, they're very, like, marvelous things, but when it comes to power generation and stuff, it's been my understanding as a layperson who, took chemistry classes, but that's not the same thing at all as knowing what's going on, that really nuclear power plants are very good at doing what we need them to do, but just that there tend to be, like, cultural and political forces that sort of stay away from their more widespread adoption. And that, you know, for reasons that are fairly obvious, psychological ones, they are very scary, right? And there's one not terribly far from where I grew up. Not like close, but, you know, like in a city, we call them cities here in Arkansas, they're not like big places that we would have driven through many times growing up. And I remember like looking at the stacks and being like, oh man, do you think there'd be a warning if it happened? And my parents would just be like, you know, very bored with me asking these silly questions. Pet crow or pet raccoon that was intelligent and properly domesticated? Oh, crow, definitely. It's like, I would love to have a bird, especially a bird that, like, that could, for lack of a better word, safely use its freedom, right? That wouldn't need, like, human maintenance to make sure nothing bad happened to the bird, you know, like, speaking of, no, we're not going to share the anecdote, it's not very nice. Anyway, you know, a lot of bad things can happen to a bird. It's just like the cartoon says. But like a crow's cagey, right? Raccoons are very fun, but like, you know, I guess it would fall down to the quibble of like, what's a properly domesticated raccoon look like? Like the one in Disney's documentary Pocahontas? Because if it's gonna take my gold doubloons, then, you know, where does it all end? It's gonna be inside of the Pringle cans before long, you know. It's gonna be sitting there with its adorable little bandit mask full of my Pringles. The crow wouldn't do that. The crow would offer me a shiny little bauble in exchange, and I would be, you know, gratified by it. And then once Zinch started talking to me, I would just listen. I would be like, oh yeah, that's a good point, Crow. You make an interesting point about what I should do. That is a good plan. But I wouldn't want, like, because, you know, I guess in the fantasy, you know, of having this crow, my living situation could be different. But like, I wouldn't want to live where I live now with a bird. I would need to be wealthy to want to have a bird for a pet. I would want like a huge amount of space, right? Like I've got like we've got like a yard at this house, but like it's you know, it's not like enough for an intelligent bird. It would get into, you know, trouble. It would be like trying to start disputes between other birds that happen to be around. You know, I've met crows before. They get antsy. Hey, Minikman. We're talking about theoretical pet ownership. Raccoons or crows? I went with a crow. What's your take? But, you know, I think, though, like, because a raccoon that really liked you, you know, would be equivalent to just an excellently cute cat, right? Like, it's that they're monstrously difficult to make into polite house guests that, you know, that makes people not have them as pets in the first place. Obviously, I'm like, am I popular enough? Should I do the thing? Don't try to domesticate wild animals, you know, it's not responsible. If you hear me talk about pro wrestling, don't do pro wrestling moves. Don't. When the Hardy Brothers jumped off of a ladder. They told me specifically, don't jump off of a ladder, and I listened to them. I was like, these guys, they would know if I should jump off of a ladder, they would tell me. Yeah, they don't have the theoretical biodynamic problems. Yes. A raccoon that was, like, you know, fastidious would be a very cool pet. But, you know, I just feel like the ceiling on, like, how well you'd be able to get along with a crow is, like, it's way up there. Like, they would be able to start, you know, whispering everything from the past, present, and future to you. You'd suddenly be very good at gambling. You would know, you know, what you had to do in order to miss all of the red lights. You would never get stopped by a train again. And then, only slightly later, you would look into a mirror and see the crow behind you. Its eye wreathed in blue and purple flame. It could happen to anyone. And that would be the first thing I thought if I ran into this crow. I would be like, oh no, I'm gonna go with it. If this turns out to be a gift to the ruinous powers, it's about time. Both could be trained to find your money in return for food. And I believe it's been established that you probably can't get in trouble for it. It would depend on how you trained them. This is the sort of video that almost certainly exists, and I'll probably look it up tomorrow morning whenever I'm making coffee. I'll be like, is it illegal to train a bird to steal apples? Because, you know, if it isn't, and you get, like, a bird that's, like, you could grip it by, you know, the stem, just carry it right to you. We need more wheat seeds. You can tell because I don't have any in the inventory, not because of the amount of wheat that we have. Isn't it nice? Look at how much progress we're making, you know. It's about to make my heart grow 3 sizes this day, looking at the wheat. I mean, just recently there was no wheat at all over on this side of the river, and now look at it. You know, sure, there's more wheat to plant there and no more wheat to plant here. But it's still a very nice addition. Exactly, Luke, because, like, you don't have to be flashy to corrupt. You know, that's what Tzeentch understands. Make them think it's their idea. Offer them a very fine bird. Offer them a choice between the bird and a raccoon. You know, this is a good wheat field. Every time I'm over here, I look at the river, and I'm like, should I fix it? I don't think I ever will. I actually like it. I like it there because it's just like a great story of how it all happened. Because this is where the canal was, clearly. But I didn't know how to build the canal yet, so I was just digging and trying to keep on digging so that I could get the water over here to connect to the water over there. This is before I discovered the bucket technology, right? So, like, in the wall here, like, I had water all through here as well. It was, you know, I did not know what was going on. And we sort of still have that as a monument to me trying to do it. All of this underneath, I was like, I just need to figure it out. And then as soon as I figured it out, I just never came back and fixed it. I just built the canal the right way and covered up what was there. Classic. Timeless. But I do look at it sometimes and say, insincerely, I should fix that. But I'm not going to, and I don't think I should fix it, you know? I was wrong to tell myself that I should fix it. What was I even thinking? That's like an important historical landmark. Exactly, Luke, and that would be a terrible tragedy, because if I couldn't explain it, what else would I explain? Like, why wheat? Why anything, I would say. You know, we've already done that one. You know, one day I could just put on a stream and plant something else. I won't. I could, though. And I think, to the extent that anything will ever make anyone come back for more, that is what it is. Because, like, the longer that it's just wheat, like, the more pure the dream is that one day it could be something greater. What's greater than wheat? Nothing. But, like, maybe somebody thinks potatoes are better or something, right? Like, maybe someone out there is like, oh man, he's gonna see the carrots in a new light. And then it's gonna be carrots from here on out, baby. Just carrots. That's what's gonna happen. And I think, to the extent that anything makes people come back for more, that's what it is, you know? It's not gonna happen, though. A potato island and then just fly over it whenever we're going on the wheat tour and act like we didn't do the, oh yeah, must have done some off-camera planting there. It would need to be to scale. What about you, Luke? Do you go with the raccoon or the crow in this dream? Crow. Nice. Well, at least you know if there was like one, like, because you don't want it to be like a Pokemon Red situation where, you know, like, hey, I was gonna choose that Squirtle, but this dude just took it. I guess I have to use a Bulbasaur forever. And you're just like saying it in front of Bulbasaur, you know. What I'm saying is the rival in Gen 1 is very rude. I know that's like pretty hot take, but that's why people come here. That and the dream that one day we'll plant something else. The hot takes about Pokemon Gen 1 and that is what the people want. Alright, that's enough wheat for right now. It isn't. We're gonna go over here. I meant enough wheat seeds for the inventory for right now. I realized it sounded like I lied. That's enough wheat. Anyway, y'all should have known I didn't mean it. I was gonna elaborate later. I live in fear that some statement like that of mine will be taken out of context and people will get just like the wrong impression about me. Like, oh, that's a guy who thinks that this is enough wheat. That's not me. It's not who I am. And on behalf of me in the past, I would like to apologize for implying for that brief instant that I thought I had enough wheat. I don't. Perhaps someday. Local zoo has a raccoon pen. Oh, that's fun. Yes, they're around. I've seen many a raccoon, but, like briefly with their eyes in trees, that kind of thing. Because I grew up, like, not what, like, I wouldn't call it, like, far from civilization, but we've always described it as out in the country, so if I was just traipsing around in, like, the forest behind my house, I could quite easily see a raccoon, or rather hear one scurry away angrily in the night and sort of hiss at me from a tree, like, do you mind leaving? And I'd be like, look, I was just trying to, do a Robert Frost thing. I didn't know I was gonna run into you, Mr. Raccoon. But all in all, not like a bad thing to run into. Again, like, you don't want to, like, be too close to them. They get antsy if they think they can't get away from you, like a lot of animals do. But, besides, like, water moccasins, my least favorite animal to surprise run into in the woods would have been wild turkeys, because they like to roost like somewhat low in trees, and then you would spook them and they would it sounded rather like The Sky Is Falling in the historical documentary of Chicken Little. It's just like an overpoweringly loud thing, like a windstorm had happened above your head. You're just minding your own business, being a kid, being loud in the woods, and then, the terror. But at least the turkeys weren't gonna, like, straight murk you like the moccasins would. I hate me some water moccasins, dude. But it's mutual. I've seen it in their eyes so many times. You never forget the first time you're, like, by yourself and you, like, see a venomous snake and you're like, oh man, they are 100% paying attention to me and there's nobody else around that can help me. It's a very, very, very pure animal moment, magnified by the fact that you know what kind of snake it is. Not my favorite animal to see. They got a lot of personality, Cottonmouth do, but I prefer them far away from me. Yeah, rattlers, exactly. I've seen several rattlesnakes in my life. Dozens probably, like, on hikes and such. But yeah, like, an animal like a rattlesnake that will, in almost all circumstances, just threaten you, and then you can, like, go away. But moccasins tend to be just, like, so territorial, and at least in my perception, and just real aggressive about it. Anyway, and when they hiss at you and they open up their mouth, it's just so white, and you're like, oh no, this is the bad one. This is the specific kind of snake that I saw that one time and it scared me, and now here it is again. Don't miss that. And then we had copperheads too, but copperheads are like like technically venomous, but even as a child, I was like, yeah, the book says even if a copperhead gets me, I'm totally cool, it's fine, it'll just, it'll be fine, whatever. Just don't try to get bit by them. But I mean, you still respected it. Obviously, I've never been bitten by I've never been bitten by a venomous snake. I've definitely been bitten by some little run-of-the-mill grass snakes, Not like crazy bad, Just I was a kid. I like snakes. Not like an above average amount. I couldn't like tell you stuff about them. I want to have one. Not any of the ones we've been talking about. I want like a little like a ball python someday. But it occurs to me that getting the food for it would be sort of like a chore, and I don't want to get any new chores. Once you saw a tarantula and then a rattlesnake on a hill hike trail within about 5 minutes of each other, that's just like two different weight classes that both have like severe problems, right? Like there's a whole huge swath of the animal kingdom that is going to have a straight bad time just because of the two of them there. But once I was talking about water moccasins with one of my friends, and she said, that's what I feel about spiders. And I was like, what? No, you couldn't possibly. And then I was like, oh no, like, I'm doing the thing again where I think people's fears aren't very real to them. But, it was a sobering thought, because, anything that somebody's afraid of that you're not afraid of, it's hard to really respect it the same, but sometimes, you'll just have a conversation with someone and you don't even know if they're going to remember it, but like they just say something in a way that sticks with you, that's very clear to you. And I have a lot of those. And I often wonder if the other people in the conversations were impacted by them at all, but at least some of the people involved got something from it. Like trenches. Yes, you've probably heard me say, because I say it all the time, that I like spiders. They don't want to eat anything that I like to eat, and I don't want to eat anything that they like to eat. Moths or butterflies? Oh, what a good question. I think probably butterflies. They're, they're easier to love. They're not as complex. They're not as off-putting unless you look really close to them. Creatures of the day rather than the night, Not that all moths are night creatures or anything. But it's interesting how like an animal can get all of the credit for a concept, The caterpillar enters the chrysalis and becomes a butterfly. That's the story. And all the other ones, all the other animals that have super cool life cycles are like, am I a joke to you? You're not going to talk about me? Oh, it's the butterflies again? Oh, okay. But in spite of all of that, and you know, they're very mainstream, and I'm supposed to be cooler than all that, but I like butterflies. But between the two, I don't have any like particular affections. I don't have like a favorite butterfly or anything. I do have a favorite moth though. And on like a more personal note, butterflies have never like tried to bop me in the head, and so many moths have like loosed their aggression upon me, and I've done nothing to them except publicly choose their more popular somewhat relatives, and you know, and those moths that bashed into my little unprotected head, because there's no hair on my head to stop the moth from running right into it, right? There's people that are not bald don't appreciate how much more endangered the bald are when it comes to moths, you know? Like, they could draw blood. I mean, they could. No, I know it's nothing personal. Probably just like a light reflecting off of my big old dumb dome. But there are some poetic conventions involving moths are better than some of the best poetic conventions involving butterflies, I think. It's that you also have like sort of like the monarch butterflies with the migration tied in, and they're so large and beautiful, and you like have the flowers tied in and stuff. Whereas the romanticism attached to moths is often darker. It's self-destructive, right? It's a moth and a flame. It's the desire for the unknown, the ineffable, the attraction to the brilliant and the beautiful, like that, at the expense of everything. That's what a moth is. In its best poetic convention. There's plenty of bugs could fly into a flame, but moths are the ones that we associate with it. There's a wonderful Me Without You song, King Beetle on the Coconut Estate. All of this sounded like gibberish. Me Without You is a real band. They're like a spoken word thing. They might still be around. I think they are. I've been listening to them for ages, 25 years or whatever. But off their album It's All Crazy, It's All False, you know the one. But the story in that song is that there was like some fire source, a flame, and this beetle on the farm kept sending out sorties to try to figure out what was going on there. And then it has this killer chorus that goes, why not, not chorus, but like sort of like a bridge thing going on at one point, why not be utterly changed into fire? Why not be utterly changed into fire? And anyway, Me Without You, super weird band. If you give them a listen, don't be surprised if you're like, I don't like this. A lot of people don't like it. I love them. It doesn't sound like a recommendation, but it's not like their best song. It's just the song that they have that reminds me of that, and in fact the song by anyone that directly takes the point of view of a bug going into a flame. If you know any other ones, tell me them, and I will give them a listen and figure out which one I like better. I think the moth gets the credit because they're more noticeable. Yes, yeah. I mean, like, it's a metaphor you hear a lot, but, like, from the point of view of a bug. Because you have the line in, oh man, what is that Modest Mouse song? I can't think of the title right now because I'm on a whole different mental tangent. But, you know, the moths beat themselves to death against the lights, adding their breeze to the summer nights. You know, that, whichever one that's from. And that's a real good one, even though I can't remember the name of it. Look, there's a lot of Modest Mouse songs. Not as many as, like, the Mountain Goats, but, you know. I love Modest Mouse too, but we have to talk about every single Mountain Goats song before we can start talking about a different band all the time. So, at least a few hundred more. I don't know how many songs they have. Several hundred. We're not going to do one here, though. By tradition, that's what we do in hardcore. But if you really want me to talk about a Mountain Goats song now, I will. I can always think of a best one. Man, popular opinion time. The Minecraft soundtrack, real good. It's just real good. Other things that are good, Wheat. This day I'm having ended up being pretty good. You know, it's been going on for 13 minutes now. All of them have been so excellent. Can't wait to wake up in the morning and have some more of it. But speaking of the morning, let's muse. What shall we do tomorrow? Alright, so we're gonna play Inscryption, probably in the afternoon. We're gonna budget like 3 hours for it, and might play it more than that, you know, just depending. It looked like a game that I could definitely play for a few hours, and if I like it, then, you know, we'll maybe play it the rest of the afternoon. And then Thursday we've got Hades 2. So it's like, do I start a new campaign in Total War? I mean, I'm going to get into Hades 2, so I won't have the focus. Maybe just, I don't know. Could play the old Silk Song some more. That's been fruitful ever since I got past the one place. But I kind of don't want to get too much deeper into that, because again, Hades. I mean, Hades does have the wonderful thing where, you know, we probably won't be doing too much Wheat. Because Hades, it's like, in Hades 1 anyway, I'm sure 2 will be structured, you know, in the same sort of way where you just play a run anytime and you don't have to worry about playing more than one if you don't have time for more than one. If only there were a 20-turn Total War campaign. Are you suggesting that I play Skulltaker? I haven't done it before, but I've heard stories. No, Khorne's very awesome, but I don't know if they're interesting to play. Oh, for time invested. Yeah, yeah. Indeed, because it's like you can get like the ball rolling, but yeah, I figured that wasn't what you meant. I was like, Torox? He came out and I bought him, and then I didn't even play as him for like 3 campaigns because I played all 3 of the pre-existing Beastmen Lords because I was just so happy. I didn't play like full campaigns. I lost pretty quick. Yeah, Tauros could be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do that. Minotaurs are great. You know, Beastman's fun because you never have to worry about, you know, econ or anything. You just, you know, go into adventures, get into fights. I do love Beastmen. And I've yet to play with any of the Mono God Chaos scores. Because I didn't have, like, any of those expansions whenever I last played the factions. You know, I got Changeling and Tamarcon and at the same time. And the Slaanesh doesn't have them yet. No, they wouldn't. They're getting their thing soon. I'm like, I would know. I would have seen them in multiplayer. The Mono God Gores are actually, all of them are very good, cost-effective units for multiplayer. You see them all the time. It's a great effect. You know, Vanguard deployment, real good. I was thinking, like, about what to do next for Three Kingdoms, but I'm like, also, because Hades 2 is looming very large, because I know that it's likely enough that I'll get obsessed, so I don't want to, like, start into, like, a campaign where, like, you know, I start to get, like, engaged and then just derail sort of the emotional investment into it, and then be like, what, you know, you come back, like, 2 weeks later, and you're like, alright, wait, why am I at war with this guy, you know, wait, me and Yan Shao are friends, but, like, am I trying to backstab him? What's going on? You know, you try to recreate all of your rationale, all of your feelings about it. I'm like, did this guy betray me yet? Has he threatened me? Did he try to get my stone pig? Did he try to get my small statue of a jade bird? You know, I don't know if that's a real one. Jade Bird is a band, though. Or a singer, in any case. I like her. She does good work. I don't know if it's the name of a band or just her name, though. I don't like her that much, but I don't actually know the names of a lot of artists that I like a lot, so it's not really a standard, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, you know, Jade Bird, that's the one. Something American. That was a good one. I know, and you say it's a lot of wheat. Yes, isn't it? We were just ending basically, but yeah. So you know that's all wheat that way, and then here we're getting into what we call, you know, this is like the old field here that we're flying over. This is Wheat Mountain. You'll never guess how it got its name. But altogether, it is Wheat Park. Isn't it glorious? Like, isn't it objectively just very good? Isn't it more than you thought that you were going to get revealed? Like, when you see the clouds, you're like, wait, how? Because this is my favorite part about it. Like, when you're approaching Wheat Mountain, it looks as though what you've seen is huge. And then this side of Wheat Mountain is just so vast, you could fit like 4 of them in there. And then, of course, you know, it just goes on there, and then this is the other spur of the wheat that we've been getting. You know, we were working on this side of the field here, and this is the new field, or you know, the newest field, if you're not into the whole repetitive thing. But yeah, that's what we do here. I don't only plant wheat. I just only plant wheat here. I also play hardcore and lots of other games. But you know, in this world, it's just wheat. Speaking of, let's check the stats. The tail of the tape. Always nice to do near the end. Alright, so 329,000 uses on wheat seeds, and we have mined them 85,600 times. Good stuff. Wonderful stuff. Reject. Oh no, this is all just wheat here. I have some carrots and like potatoes and beets. They happened a long time ago, more than a year ago. Like all of this was planted ages ago. And before I really leaned into the whole wheat thing, right? So there's this field, which was sort of like a mixed-use, like crop-rotated field with the other ones. But we don't really plant new ones of those anymore. And obviously, the wheat is what it's all about. Bye, Reject. Thanks for stopping in. But anyway, there we go. You know, it's not much, but it's all mine. I bet someone out there has more wheat than this. I bet they do. But what would they even do with it, you know? Why would they need it? How long did it take me to place all that wheat? Oh, thank you for the mustache compliment, Reject. A while. So I started playing Minecraft last year, in June. It would have been like the first time I ever played Minecraft. And the first video I did about this wheat field, where it was much smaller, just basically what you see right here in the shot, only not over there, you know, just right here, not all that stuff in the distance there. And not any of that. It was just this little island part right here. This little peninsular thing of wheat. But, so, about a year and a month or so, I've been planting wheat on and off. But, I mean, so Time and World, this was the first world I ever played Minecraft in that, you know, I played it on Peaceful. I had started other worlds in Normal, but they didn't really catch on. Right, I kept on failing. So we've played, you know, 18 human days in this world. Not all of those were planting wheat. A whole lot of them were. But we're on day 745 of my hardcore world, which you know, I don't know how many human days that is either, but I mean, I could check or whatever. But yeah, and we've been playing in the hardcore world. I think it's just like 10 months now or so. 'Cause yeah, I went from playing on Peaceful to playing on hardcore, and to, you know, it's the only I've beat the game one time. I tried to do a random seed run the other day, but I can't beat Blazes in a fight, so I gave up. But I have beat it on hardcore. I just, you know, had better stuff for that. But anyway, it's get to be about midnight 30 for me. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Really hope you've enjoyed. And you know, maybe I'll see you in another stream or video. I'll be around these next couple of days streaming various stuff, and you know, maybe I'll see you there. Luke, good night. Excellent seeing you as always, and good night, Unknown. Good night, Reject. Bye, Minicman. Bye, Yellow Cheese Pizza Guy. Hope the typhoon relatively passes you by. But everyone else out there, if you're watching in the future, I hope the weather is nice. Disregard all the time-sensitive information, and yeah. All right. The Marcus Aurelius thing. I was like, wait, no, I did the quote earlier, but that was just because it was apropos to the conversation. I had one that I came across earlier that I wanted to, along in the same sort of vein, but this is meditation through book 3, number 10. Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see. The span we live is small. Small as the corner of the earth in which we live it. Small as even the greatest renown, passed from mouth to mouth by short-lived stick figures, ignorant alike of themselves and those long dead. And I really like that one. Not least because there's an element of delicious irony in Marcus Aurelius saying, people are going to forget you, and me consistently sitting here remembering him all of the time. Just goes to show how inaccurate a person can be when taking their own measure. Anyway, good night, everybody. See you around.